What's up, Bucs fans, NFL fans, and betting fans? This is Matt Matera from PewterReport.com back for week 3 of Pewter Picks and Props, Pewter Report's newest and latest gambling and fantasy props show on our YouTube channel. Very excited to get into week 3 because I am scorching hot with my picks. I cannot lie. I can't lose right now. I can't lose too much. I am above right now in terms of all of my picks, whether it's NFL, whether it's the Bucs, and my props. Let me show you my record so far through 2 weeks. I am 10-5-1 on the NFL. That includes the Bucs picks, which I am 4-0 on. That's right. Against the Minnesota Vikings, I took the Bucs plus 6.5. That hit. I took the under of 45.5. That hit. And last week against the Chicago Bears, the Bucs came through covering the spread of -3 and also hitting the over of 40.5. So if you have not made picks with me yet, you are just wasting money. You might as well just light your money on fire because you're making the wrong picks. You have to follow mine going into week 3 because, like I said, I am undefeated with my Bucs picks, and 4-1 with my player props is pretty damn good too. So let's look at this matchup. We are prime time this week for Bucs Eagles, the only matchup of the entire week that has 2 undefeated teams, with the Bucs and Eagles both at 2-0 going into Monday Night Football. Of course, this show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you use that promo code Pewter, that's PEWTER, to get a deposit bonus. We're going to talk about the pick'ems. We'll show you a video. If you're new to fantasy props or betting and all that good stuff, we'll show you how to make those picks on Underdog Fantasy. But let's get into my picks for this week. I went a little more conservative, just going with 2 picks. This week, I'm upping the ante. And I just want to remind everybody, the picks I make, you can parlay them together. You can put them all together on Underdog Fantasy. You can also bet them individually if you want. If there's 1 or 2 picks that you may not like, or you think, oh, I'm only going to hit 3 or 4, that's totally fine. Make your individual bets on your own platform, whatever you want to do. This is just what I'm going with. I'd also recommend doing some insurance for this week because I got multiple picks. I got 4 picks specifically that I like on Underdog Fantasy for Bucs versus Eagles in that Monday Night Football matchup. So let's start first. I'm going with lower than 46.5 rushing yards for Rachaad White. Listen, I really like Rachaad White. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a very talented running back who's going to do great things in this Buccaneers offense. But it's really more, it has to do with the Eagles. They are the best run-stopping defense in the NFL as it stands at the moment, allowing just 52 yards per game. It's been a little up and down with Rachaad White. Remember, I took him in week 1 with my Pewter Picks and Props. He was one of my Underdog Fantasy props. He was the only prop bet that did not hit. Just a reminder, again, 4-1 with my props record. The one, Rachaad White, which ironically is his jersey number as well, was the only one that did not hit for me in my player props. So for Rachaad, we got bad Rachaad week 1, a really good Rachaad in week 2, but this Eagles defensive front across the board, Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, they have some absolute dogs up front, literally and physically, because half their team is from the University of Georgia. So I think it's going to be extremely tough sledding for Rachaad White in this game. And I think the Bucs are going to have to get very creative with how they utilize the run game. And because of that, I don't think they're going to go with your standard zone blocking and we're just going to run to the left or the right side. Because they're going to get creative, let's remember, the Bucs had a nice end around with wide receiver Devin Tompkins last week. I think you'll see more of that. I think you'll see more counters and pulls and a little more of Sean Tucker in the mix because Chase Edmonds is on the IR. So with the Bucs' inability to get things going in the ground game, especially with the offensive line, Robert Hainsey has struggled a little bit with his blocking. Josh Capo of PewterReport.com had a great article about him being the weak link right now. The Bucs have had their moments against inferior teams, but again, the Eagles are just so different. I don't see the Bucs moving the ball very much in the run game, at least not in a situation where Rachaad White's going to be flourishing. So as much as I love Rachaad White, I got to take lesser than 46.5 rushing yards for him. But on the other side of it, I really love this matchup for Chris Godwin, and I'm picking higher than 5 receptions for praise be to Godwin. It's been a steady Eddie start for Chris going into the season. He has 10 receptions on the year for just over 100 yards, I believe 109 yards to be specific. He's had 5 receptions in each game, so he's just about getting that number each time. But the reason I really like Rachaad White Chris Godwin is for the banged up secondary that the Eagles have going into this one. So Avonte Maddox was their nickel, their slot corner. Maddox is on IR. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. So the Eagles have a number of decisions that they can go with to fill that position. James Bradbury, who's a very talented corner, had a concussion last week. He'll be back for this one. They can move James Bradbury to the slot, but then that opens up the outside corner where they have Josh Jobe from Alabama, Roll Tide. They got Goodrich as well. So a couple of options, but more inexperienced guys. I know Chris Godwin has lined up outside and done very well. Obviously, Mike Evans has had the crazy, gigantic games, but Chris Godwin's been very solid too. I want to see Chris Godwin for this game and this game only, or depending on who the opponent is and the game plan. I want to see Chris Godwin go back into the slot where he absolutely flourished the past couple of years. I understand it's a different quarterback now with Baker Mayfield throwing the ball and calling the shots, but I think Rachaad White over the middle, the yards after the catch, obviously that's not going to impact your pick for the amount of catches, but I think Chris Godwin is due for a much bigger role in this offense. It was Mike's number last week. I believe it's going to be Chris Godwin for week 3 in Monday Night Football. And I think Chris Godwin plays some of his best football when it's prime time. So I really like Rachaad White over or higher than 5 catches. My next pick, remember for Underdog Fantasy, you have to pick at least one player from another team. And most people do the matchup that's going on. So for this sake, I'm going to stick with the Eagles as well. Jalen Hurts, higher than 9.5 rushing attempts. Now, this is an interesting one because Jalen Hurts, through 2 games, he's had 12 rushing attempts and 9. So he's floated right around that number. But the big key for me, and especially after talking to some of the Bucs coaches this week, including Todd Bowles, is the Eagles have made very famous the short yardage QB sneak to get Jalen Hurts that first down or that touchdown. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week with those QB sneaks. Those count as rushing attempts. So I see at least 2 situations where the Eagles have 4th and inches, 3rd and inches, 3rd and goal, whatever it is, and they're just pushing Jalen Hurts forward. And because it's just rushing attempts, it doesn't matter if he gains 10 yards, if he loses a yard, if he fumbles the football, it still counts as a rushing attempt. So because Jalen Hurts has been a little more conservative with passing the ball a little bit more, he had great completion percentage last week going at 78%. I think Jalen Hurts is going to use his legs just a little bit more. The Bucs obviously have some good practice with going up against Justin Fields, but Jalen Hurts is a little bit different. He has more weapons, so once he gets that passing game going, Bucs are going to recede back a little bit. That's going to open up some running lanes that weren't there for Jalen Hurts in the first 2 weeks. I also see the Bucs bringing the blitz a lot, or at least getting into the backfield with guys like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who had his best game as a professional last week, and Shaq Barrett as well. And even if Jalen Hurts isn't totally able to escape, he can at least try to get up the field. And if he rushes for 1 yard, let's just say again, Shaq Barrett has a great pass rush, gets by the offensive tackle, chasing after Jalen Hurts, and Hurts takes it up the field 1 yard and runs out of bounds. That is still a rushing attempt. And we've seen in the past, as great as Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was last week, A lot of times he'll wrap up the quarterback, not able to take him down, and that quarterback escapes. Escapability is the name of the game for any mobile quarterback, especially Jalen Hurts, who played at an MVP caliber last season. So give me the higher than rushing attempts for Jalen Hurts at 9.5. I think a couple of QB sneaks in there, along with just creating plays because he is an MVP caliber type of quarterback. Give me the over of a 9.5 rushing attempts for Jalen Hurts. My last pewter prop of this game is also for the Eagles. It is kicker Jake Elliott, who's been very, very active for Philadelphia early in the season. He has 6 field goals made on 7 attempts. So that just kind of shows that the Eagles offense hasn't totally been in their groove just yet. They've had to settle for a number of field goals. And obviously the Bucs have been very stout on defense. You heard me mention some of the guys on the pass rush. Devin White has been fantastic through 2 games as well. They're not even bend but don't break. They are just a team that makes plays, but they haven't been perfect. 17 points per game is what they've been allowing. They've allowed that number in the first 2 games of the season. I see a situation where the Bucs allow some plays down the field, not by choice. Just the Eagles are a very talented team. Then they get stingy in that red zone, get some stops, and force the Eagles to kick some field goals. If the Bucs want to win this game or stay in this game, it is going to come from a great defensive performance, and that means preventing those touchdowns and turning those touchdowns into field goals or a couple of turnovers. So I think my favorite pick out of all 4 of these is Jake Elliott over a field goal and a half that he will hit in this game. So those are my picks for my Underdog Fantasy Pewter Props. One more time for the people listening, it's Rachaad White lower than 46.5 rushing yards. Chris Godwin higher than 5 receptions. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts higher than 9.5 rushing attempts. And Jake Elliott higher than 1.5 field goals made in the Monday night game. Next, we're going to go to the spread in this one and the over-under, along with my anytime touchdown bet. Excuse me. But first, let's talk a little bit more about Underdog Fantasy and how you can do this pick'em. It's a single-player fantasy game that's based on player stats. So you pick the higher or lower on all the number of stats from the offensive players, whether it's quarterback, running back. It really doesn't matter what position. And the more you bet, the more you can win. So if you make 5 picks, you can win double, triple that money, depending on how much you're putting on it. The insurance is key as well. So if you make those 5 picks and only 4 hit, if you have insurance, you'll still walk away with some money. But if you just go all 5 and say, screw it, I think I'm going to win, and you only hit 4 of those 5, you don't end up with anything. So definitely consider going with the insurance if you are making multiple picks for Underdog Fantasy. But it's so much fun. Use that promo code Pewter, Pewter, get a deposit bonus when you make those pick'ems. They also got rivals where you have one player going up against another and who's going to have more stats depending on who you pick. So a number of great games to play with on Underdog Fantasy. But next, let's go to the spread and the over-under for the Bucs-Eagles game on Monday Night Football, which I am undefeated. I cannot be stopped picking the Bucs game, the spread, and the over-under. I will say that again. I cannot be stopped when it comes to picking the Bucs games. 2 games, I'm 4-0, and every single week I'm picking the spread and the over-under in this game. So in this one, we got to give a little context to it all. So through 2 games, the Bucs are 2-0 against the spread. They've covered the spread both times. The Eagles are 1-0-1. They covered the spread against the Patriots in week 1, and then it was a push against the Minnesota Vikings when they had their Thursday night football game. I think this game is going to be very close, kind of what I reiterated earlier on, that the Bucs defense is going to keep Tampa Bay in this game. While people are doubting the Bucs, I think a lot more people are coming around on what Tampa Bay can do. While I think Tampa Bay is going to keep it close, the line, I'm filming this on a Friday. It started out at 7.5, and I really like the Bucs at 7.5. It's moved all the way down to 5 now, and I don't know if I love the Bucs at 5. So I'm actually picking the Philadelphia Eagles at -5 to cover that spread. You have two teams that are undefeated against the spread right now. Something has got to give. And I just think the biggest issue, and this is why I'm picking the under of 46 points, is I don't know if the Bucs offense can keep up against the Eagles defense just yet. If they're not able to run the ball, which I think that's going to be the case, I don't know if Baker Mayfield throwing it 30 to 40 times a game is going to get the job done. I do like Chris Godwin and his ability to make plays for the Bucs, but it can't be a one-man show. I think the Eagles are going to hone in on Mike Evans because of the gigantic game that Mike Evans had last week against the Chicago Bears. They're not going to let that go on again. So if you take away one player in that aspect of it, where else are you going to get contributions? Is Cade Otton going to be the guy and step up? Is Trey Palmer going to solidify himself as a wide receiver 3? Is Devin Tompkins going to make a big play? I think it's kind of Chris Godwin or bust this week for the Bucs on offense. I don't really see them scoring double-digit points, and I can see while the Bucs defense has allowed 17 points per game, the Eagles offense hasn't gotten it going yet. So is this the week where they finally turn it around, where they start force-feeding A.J. Brown? Carlton Davis is coming off of a toe injury. Will the Bucs be able to get to Jalen Hurts? I don't necessarily think that they're going to limit him enough where the Eagles can't start pulling away. Do I think the Bucs will make it close? Yeah, I see this going into the fourth quarter with the Bucs either with the lead or tie game or within one score. But I just think late in the game, my prediction for this one actually is the Eagles to win 20-14. I can see the Bucs up 14-13 in the fourth quarter, and the Eagles go and make a big play at the end to win this one. I think the Bucs defense might get a little bit tired because the offense may have some struggles in the second half. Let's remember, they won the turnover battle 3-0 against the Minnesota Vikings and only won by 3 points. They won the turnover battle 2-0 against the Bears and outplayed the Bears, and yet somehow, if it wasn't for a Shaq Barrett pick 6 at the end of the game, the over doesn't hit, and the Bucs don't cover that number. So they were in a dogfight against the lowly Chicago Bears, who are an absolute dumpster fire at this moment. We got to remember that fourth quarter for the Bucs offense was not good. They had a couple of 3-and-outs. They had very short drives where they didn't take a lot of time off the clock. Now, when the Bucs are functioning well, they are taking a ton of time off the clock, and that's why I love the under of 46 points. I think the Bucs defense, again, they'll keep them in the game, and they'll keep that number down. I don't see the Eagles going much higher than 20, even 24 points. I just don't know how the Bucs are going to establish a run game. I don't know how they're going to be on third down. As great as they've been this season, I think third down is going to be an issue for them. They may not turn over the ball, but that's still not going to be enough for the Bucs to win this game because the Eagles are so talented. So because of those factors, I have the Eagles covering at -5 and the under going at 46. Now, I do like Chris Godwin for an anytime touchdown. I hit my anytime touchdown last week with Rachaad White. Like I said, I think this is the breaking out game for Chris Godwin with a much more tempo in the offense, making plays over the middle. I think he reaches the end zone this week because he is due. So one more time, I got Eagles -5, under 46, and anytime touchdown for Chris Godwin. I haven't been wrong yet, though. As you can see, I'm 4-0 with my Bucs picks, 4-1 with my Bucs prop bets, and I'm 10-5-1 on the NFL. So as we wrap up the show, let's get into my picks around the league. I have 5 picks this week, so if you include the Bucs as well on Monday Night Football, that goes for 7 total. And as I've done the last 2 weeks, I'm going to stick with the NFC South with my first pick. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons plus 3.5 against the Detroit Lions. These are my picks. I'll keep going back to the screen after a little bit. As you can see, we'll get back to it. But the reason why I like Atlanta plus 3.5 against the Lions more than anything else is their defense, which is kind of crazy to think when you imagine the Atlanta Falcons. You think about that running game with Bijan Robinson, their coach, who is pretty creative on offense. But no, Atlanta's defense has been very stingy through the first 2 weeks. And I think the Lions are going to want to play a smash mouth type of football. And I know they beat the Chiefs in week 1, but they ended up losing to the Seahawks in a home game, the home opener for the Lions, with all that momentum after beating the Chiefs. I think they went back towards the medium of what this Lions team is going to be. They're still very smash mouth. There's a solid team, but I think with the Falcons' ability to play with the lead, to be able to run the ball with the monster that is Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson, there's a lot to like about this Atlanta Falcons team, and that's why they're 2-0. So I'm taking the Falcons plus 3.5 against the Detroit Lions. This next team, Travis Kelce, has been getting a lot of fanfare for his alleged relationship with Taylor Swift, or trying to woo Taylor Swift. But in this one, we talk about the Chiefs and their matchup against the Chicago Bears, who the Bucs just saw last week. I know the Chiefs are very high scoring, but I like the under of 48 because the Chiefs offense is still trying to figure themselves out. Obviously, they only scored 17 points, but that was in a win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, even though you think about the Chiefs offense, it's the Chiefs defense why I'm picking the under in this game. I think they're going to be able to shut down Justin Fields in that Bears offense. I don't care that the Bears just had a mea culpa and all of a sudden the quarterback and the offensive coordinator are singing Kumbaya again. No, give me the under of 48 in this game. That's pretty high. I don't see the Bears offense really doing much again for another week, and there'll be another storyline for the Bears. My next one, this is an over 44.5 points in the Bills-Commanders game. The 2-0 Washington Commanders against the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills' offense is back on track. Josh Allen, James Cook, the running back, is very talented. And Washington, Eric Bieniemy, new offensive coordinator, came over from Kansas City, has got this team playing pretty well. I mean, you have to play well enough to be 2-0, but I think the Bills put up at least 30 points against Washington, and Washington's able to do the rest to get that over 44.5. That's a bit of a lower over considering it is the Buffalo Bills. My last two picks, as you see on the screen, Patriots minus 2.5, and then the under of Jets and Patriots of 37. I'll start with the minus 2.5. This is for one reason and one reason only: Zach Wilson. I admire that Zach Wilson has won back the locker room with his teammates. I admire that he's got a great friendship now with Aaron Rodgers, and he's trying to put his best foot forward. I'm sure Zach Wilson is a great guy, but let me make this very, very clear. Zach Wilson stinks. He absolutely stinks as a quarterback, and I have not seen any progression. I was there when the Bucs had their joint training camp practice with the New York Jets. I saw it with my own two eyes. I was literally right by the sideline when it happened. He threw a pick six to Anthony Nelson. Anthony Nelson, the backup outside linebacker for the Bucs. I think the Jets are so talented, but they don't have a quarterback. Zach Wilson is still either going to throw interceptions or be so tentative and so worrisome, and the Jets are going to be so scared to call anything that he has to throw down the field that they are not going to be able to move the football. New England minus 2.5 is not only great because the Jets offense stinks with Zach Wilson as their quarterback, they've also beaten the Jets the last 14 times. The Jets haven't beaten the Patriots in 7 seasons. Why is it going to be any different this week? Zach Wilson's back. He's the quarterback again. The Jets have to hope and pray that their run game is on point, which they refused to run the ball last week Why? I have no idea. But they need to run the football. And if you're the Patriots and Bill Belichick, one of the smartest football minds in the history of the game, is going to say, I dare you to throw the ball. They're going to put 8, 9, 10 guys in the box, play man-to-man, and dare Zach Wilson to throw the football. And he can't. So the Patriots minus 2.5 is my pick for that one. My last one, as I just said before, the under in Jets-Patriots 37. That is my lock of the week. My lock of the week is under 37. I'm 1-1 with my locks of the weeks. I hit it in week 1. I did not hit it in week 2. I apologize. But my lock of the week for week 3 is under 37 in Jets-Patriots. The last time these two teams met, it was 10-3, and the only touchdown was scored in the last play of the game with a punt return touchdown by the Patriots. Ironically enough, then the Jets did it in week 1 when they defeated the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to Jordan Whitehead for that 3-interception game. Sauce Gardner. That Jets jersey is just so awesome. But I love the under in this game because I think if the Jets are going to succeed, which I don't think they are, they're going to run the football. If you're running the ball, that means time is being taken off the clock. I don't see the Jets scoring more than 2 touchdowns in this game. I also think their defense is pissed off from the way that they played against the Dallas Cowboys a week ago. There's not much threatening about New England's offense. Mac Jones, I don't think is the guy. They have no wide receivers. Their run game is solid, but I think it's going to be another dirty, gritty, ugly, disgusting game where probably one team doesn't even get to double-digit points. So my lock of the week is under 37 points in Jets versus Patriots coming up on Sunday. So my final picks, once again, I got Falcons plus 3.5, the under 48 in Chiefs versus Bears, over 44.5 for Bills against the Washington Commanders, Patriots minus 2.5, and Jets Patriots under 37. My Pewter props, Rachaad White lower than 46.5 yards, Chris Godwin higher than 5 receptions, Jalen Hurts higher than 9.5 rushing attempts, Jake Elliott higher than 1.5 field goals made. And that's my record, 10-5-1, 4-0, and 4-1. My picks this week for the Bucs game, which most of you care about the most, I'm picking Eagles minus 5, under 46, and anytime touchdown for Chris Godwin. That's going to do it for me for this week. If there's any picks that you like or don't like, or any other picks from a game that I did not choose from this slate, feel free to put it in the comments with your own picks or what parlays or picks and props that you're going to go with for this week. And just a reminder, please, if you're not already doing so, follow us on our social media at Pewter Report. We are at Pewter Report on X, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. We've gotten over 12,000 followers, and we couldn't do it without everybody watching this show. It's been a ton of fun to do it again. My name is Matt Matera from PewterReport.com. You can follow me at Matty, the number 4 _ Matera. That's Matera. Good luck to everybody this week, and I hope you win your bets. Let's win some money.